Previously on the Data Factory.
The basics of database and SQL Server. Types of databases. Let's have a look inside a typical SQL Server. So with that, the installation is complete. That was it. Similarly, databases, so TCL or Transaction Control Language, and the file type is MDF, also referred to as the primary data file. Select the top 1000 rows. Okay, it's ready for us to reuse. So we have opened SSMS. Let's connect to our database engine. So herein I'll use the second instance, because on the first one I've already created same databases, etc. So do not want to use it there. Okay, let's connect and new query. Let us open a template. Let me open a file. That will be in desktop, SQL files, the first one. Perfect. So this is where we start. What I've done is essentially I've laid out all the sections which we intend to cover in this particular episode. Let's start. So to start with, we create a database named employee database. Create database employee database. And you see we have the employee database created over here. Let's connect to our database. Connected. See, we are connected to the employee database, and to the right bottom you also see its employee database. Here too you will see at the end they show the database name as well. So there are three places essentially where you can check to which database you're connected. So this is helpful in case you have done a full screen. From here the shortcut is Shift Alt and Enter. So here you can just hover and see it's the employee database. Again, Shift Alt Enter. Let's drag this. Perfect. Now we create a table. Create table employee info. Let's have VMP ID int, AMP name as char30, AMP country as 40, and their salaries as integer. Cool. So why do we have it here? Okay, sorry, this should be character. Okay, great. So let's highlight and run it using F5. So table is created. Now if we go here into the employee database to the tables section, we see dbo.employee-info. Perfect. So int is to store digits, essentially your whole numbers. Employee name is to store characters. Now, when I say character, it can be digits, symbols, alphabets, etc. Employee country uses not char. Let's show you varchar. Yeah, varchar is used to store up to 40 characters. Now, the word up to is important here. So, whenever we are defining employee name as char 30, whether a name entered is occupying just 5 spaces or like 5 in length, the space that is designated for each of the records will still be 30. And in varchar, if your character extends up to a max of 10 characters, then the designated space will be 10. Herein we have just noted down a few things. So it's very important to know that every table requires at least a column. Now this can go up to 1024 in count, and every column name needs a data type declaration. And varchar versus char. Varchar cuts off trailing spaces if the entered characters is shorter than the declared length, while char will not. Char will pad spaces and will always be the length of the declared length. In terms of efficiency, varchar is more adept as it trims characters to allow more adjustments. However, if we know the exact length of char will execute with a bit more speed. Now, let's pick up real life examples. So, what kind of columns should ideally use char? It can be used to store static data, wherein we can somewhat, with greater degree of probability, already know that what are the number of exact characters that our data is going to occupy. Examples can be username, gender. Now coming to varchar, it's exactly the opposite. If in case you do not know what is the data looks like, it can be of a varying length, right? Like your password and your current location, right? Okay. So that was creating a table that's employee info. Now let's start inserting records over there. Now this is a bit tedious. Insert into employee info values. So the first column is int for us. We should switch to full screen. Alt Shift Enter. So let's enter the employee names, starting with myself. Okay, insert into employee info values. I think let's arrange it in this fashion. That'll be easier and faster. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, what did I do? Let's copy this. 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, let's have kind of unique ones over here. 5, 6. Names. Joe. last couple of ones, let's shift them to our US office. And salaries, let's have your 8 repeated 6 times. Let's leave it with the same salary over here. Change it for Amy. Same and same. Okay, great. So essentially, this is one single statement. Now what we can do is we could have had it separate like this. Cool. So what we have essentially done here is, previously it was one single line of execution or transaction. We have broken it down into multiple statements. This one is in itself a complete statement and a transaction. Now we will cover more about transactions later in a particular episode. We have a separate one for it. So herein, why did we separate them into transactions? So basically, just to let you know that a collection of statements or transactions is referred to as a batch. Let us now execute all these statements at one go. Okay, perfect. Now you see that for every execution there's a separate result item here. Okay, one row affected, 2 3. So since we have 1 2 3 4 5 6 records, we will have 6 times one row affected here. Now so this is use of a batch. So you can submit a collection of SQL statements for execution. Now coming to usage of Go, let us add more records to our table. 3 4 5 6, another 6 should be fine for us. Okay, 7 8 9 10 11 12. So very simple names. Ami, Amin, KIR, let's have VR, no, it's the same thing, VR2 and VR3. Now where are they residing? They're in US. Let's add India. Okay, couple of Indians. Let's repeat for Canada, and for illustration purposes, let's have null as well. Cool. So essentially what we have done here is we have used Go. Now Go is used to orchestrate execution with order. Now where is the order coming from, right? So you see the second batch of statements here. Now if we select both the batches of statements, now why am I using the word both? Because once we specify Go in between batches of SQL statements, it helps in segregating the execution. Now, while the first will be executed as soon as we submit this selection, the processor and memory resources will be looked up and allocated for the second batch. Now, this results in better performance and faster execution times. Also, it is used to orchestrate logical order of execution. For example, let's use create and use database over here. Now let's create employee database 2 and use employee database 2 as well. Considering, let's have the statement separator here. We select this one and we submit for execution. Now you see that it gives us an error. It says employee database 2 does not exist. Make sure that the name is entered correctly. So what happened here was, once we submitted both of these statements, it is being checked for logical consistency together. Okay. Now whenever the execution looks that we are asking it to use employee database 2, it's not able to find the database named employee database 2. Okay. Now what we could do here is we could execute this one first and then we could execute this. It would have been absolutely fine. Now say you are storing these two statements in a procedure or function. Okay. Now we will come to procedures and functions, but say that you wish to automate based on some insert and delete, etc. And both these statements you wish to store them as part of an automated process. Now Go comes in handy here. Now Go, what it tells the executor is the first one will be executed first and then the next. But meanwhile, the resources will be readied for the second statement. Let us execute this. You see, the commands are completed successfully. Let's Alt, Shift and Enter and hit refresh. Okay, where's the database? Let me refresh the database folder. Perfect. We have our employee database too. So that would be it for this episode. See you in the next. Cheers.